You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here again today. And man, just like any other time, we have another show. Man, we're going to dive into something that's going to be a very important, not just conversation, but I hope it'll be words of wisdom with our expert that we have on today. So when it comes to this dyslexia affects as many as 15 to 20% of all learners, yet most families still hear the phrase, wait and see. My guest today flips that script, known as Dyslexia Professor Russell Van Brocklen. He translates proven structured literacy methods into bite-sized actions that parents can use right away. And we had a little chit-chat in the green room. He has a ton of amazing stories and updates that he can fill in with our viewers and audience on what he's been working on behind the scenes. He has the focus also on turning frustration into confidence. And Russell, he shows why multisensory routines beat generic worksheets. And without any further ado, I won't waste any more time because time is limited and time is very valuable. Welcome to the show today, Russell. How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate your time. So first question off for you is, when you look back with your experience learning from parents and what they had to go through with children who are dyslexic, what's some of the pain points that you see are like a common thread that pops up whenever you're dealing with them?
Well, typically it begins with the battle in elementary school, because what you need to understand about the science of dyslexia is that you really do need to get it diagnosed in kindergarten. And how hard is that? You just have your school contact the Yale University, the Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creative Studies, and you say, how do I test this in kindergarten? And it's inexpensive and the teacher can do it. Once you have that done, then they have pick what programs you want. They're all federally funded, completely research-based, and they can get your child to grade to at or close to grade level by the end of third grade. Why is that important? Because at K through 3 in the United States, you learn to read. From fourth and beyond, you read to learn. So the studies keep showing if you're at grade level at the end of third grade, you're going to generally be okay. If you're not, it's an academic 911 emergency. So what does people do? Oh, we're going to wait until fourth grade. Once you hit fourth grade, if you want to use the traditional approach, which is an Orton-Gillingham multisensory structured language approach, you're looking at 4 to 5 years at like $75,000 a year because you've waited. My goal was to change that. So once they hit fourth grade, they failed the test. How can we have parents do this at home or make this much more efficient for teachers? And I'm gonna base what I do on the latest science. This is the top book in my field. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz, 2nd edition from Yale. That's dyslexia. Do you see how the back part of my brain has like almost no neural activities and yours is going crazy? Okay. Yeah. Now, do you see how the front part of my brain is about 2.5 times overactive?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the secret. My idea was, why don't we take that overactivity in the front part of the brain and make it radically more effective? So when I started out, Yale said that is articulation followed by word analysis. So with me, I entered the New York State Assembly internship in the late 90s. So I wanted to know how government worked. I had a first grade reading and writing level, so they accommodated me like crazy. I gave an oral presentation instead of a paper, which was very standard back then. But because they recommended 15 credits of A-, for the only time in the history of the program, the political science department at my home university, the SUNY Center of Buffalo, looked at that and said, we don't like your accommodation, so here's your 15 credits of F. So I went to law school to figure out how to read and write, which took me reading a month, writing for a couple of years. Then I convinced the New York State Senate to fund my research after years of working at SUNY Center of Buffalo. And what we did is we took the most intelligent, highly motivated high school juniors and seniors, and in one class period a day for the school year, we increased their writing from the middle school level to the average range of entering graduate students. They all graduated from college, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6, cost taxpayers less than $900 a kid. Why was that so successful? Because we used the graduate records analytical writing assessment, analytical articulation, the front part of the brain. They were the same to me. But when I went to try to explain this to everybody, when I presented this in New York City, they asked, will this work for everybody? And I said, no. This only works for the most motivated kids. They're like, what do we do about the typical students? So what I had to do was take a few years off. I went back, and what I found I had to do was to flip it from word analysis followed by articulation. Okay. So, but then I couldn't get the kids to do the work. So what I found out is for dyslexics and ADD and ADHD kids, we had to find out what their speciality is, their area of extreme interest and ability. So what that is a Saturday morning, what they can do anything they want all day. What is it? That's their speciality. Next, we had to find a book that they're really interested in on doing that. We find the audio book, and then we find the printed book. Next, we can't ask these kids to go from the general to the specific. We can't ask them, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement? It's like grabbing fog. We can't get it. Because when you ask these students, when you're thinking about your speciality and you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization, is that you? And they say, yes. We just think so rapidly, there's no organization. So we have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So what we do is we ask a specific to the general question. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? We look up at his biography, we find the answer. A question presents itself, we answer it, same thing. Then we do word analysis followed by articulation. How successful is this? Last December 27th, 2024, I have full permission to tell the story. I met Kimberly. She just spent $700 in Ohio having her son and their family tested. Reed's 10 years old, very dyslexic. He scored a 190 on his reading and writing test, which for Ohio's mid-second grade level. He was supposed to increase by 2.8 points if he was in a special ed program for the rest of the school year. Grade level's 211. Kimberly working just a half an hour a session, 3 sessions a week, and I worked with her half an hour a week. She didn't increase by 2.8 points. She increased by 20 points. That's over a 3 standard deviation increase. What happened to Reed? His friends said, we want you in school for social reasons. If it was January, he would have went back in special ed and he would not be with his friends, very frustrated. Where is he now? He's in class. He's doing absolutely fine. And that's how effective this process can be.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today. Russell, when you think about how progress is made, is there any similar progress that you see students make once they kind of figure out where they are and what it is that's exactly specifically hurting them to? Because what I'm hearing from you, I love the analogy of grabbing like the fog. It's like so much is going on in their mind that it's like it's unorganized. Is there any similar progress that you see make once they kind of connect the dots and it starts taking forward for them and it starts to work?
Let me give you the research I did on this. And I wanted to focus on the most successful people, dyslexics who went to normal schools, not the specialized ones, that made the rank of full professor at a major research university. And I heard the same thing over and over and over again. Compared to their eventual peers, they were horrible in high school, not good in college. Graduate school topped their class day one. Why? Let's go through what schools do. What schools do is let's take English class. They want you to go through 5 books a semester, 10 books a semester, a year, whatever it is, a lot of books. I will start off with a book the kid's really interested in, a year or two above where they're supposed to be or more. And I will spend 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years on the same book. Okay. The 2-year books are the ones where they jump from, 10 and 11-year-olds who jump from 2nd, 3rd grade reading and writing up to 11th or 12th grade reading and writing. Okay. So it's a huge increase. That's the first thing that violates it. Dyslexics, once you step outside the speciality, the most motivated kids you've ever met, their motivation's down at least 50%, typically 75, 80%. Then the schools teach from the general to the specific, which is almost impossible for us because we learn from the specific to the general. So now you're hurting it even more. And they're certainly not doing word analysis followed by articulation. The system by its own design is pretty much for us to fail. And it's not done on purpose. I'm again going to go back to the science. Here's dyslexia again. Yeah. Gen Ed students have a massive overactivity in the back part of the brain. That's who the school's designed it for. All right. So when we're doing the intervention, what I'm trying to say is we don't have to have the kid on speciality forever, just until they're at least at grade level. And then they're okay. There are some minor squirps every time you go in, but it's like with Reed, he didn't like to write in math class. A little extra work, and we took care of that. But you have to get them on grade level, and if you're trying to get them on grade level and they're way behind, and you're not using the speciality specific to the general and word analysis followed by articulation, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot and making them work so much harder for the way that the dyslexic brain is not designed optimally to learn.
I can imagine the gap gets a lot larger as time goes by because time is precious. And once too much time is passed, how likely is it for them to recover and catch up?
Well, as I said, I, for example, with my original program, these kids were writing at the middle school level. The end of the academic year, they're writing as entering graduate students. Now, what has changed from that, are you familiar with a book called The Craft of Research? It's a book written by the University of Chicago in 1995. It's what the professors want. It's the preeminent book on how to write advanced research papers. It's based on context, get everybody on the same page, a problem, statement, solution, where it's truly original. I dropped context at 9 and 10-year-olds, problems to 11 to 17-year-olds, and solution to 17-year-olds. And it is so powerful. Name a book in high school that everybody read that you know a lot about.
In high school?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably not on top of my head, but name one, unfortunately.
Okay. I'm just going to call it Mice and Men. Could you write something original on Mice and Men? Something nobody's ever written before?
Maybe. I mean, I can't get a definite yes, but I would say if I was motivated, sure.
Well, teachers it's a less than a handful of time in their careers, typically. I've reduced it to a formula where if they want to go that far, every time they write an essay, our goal is to make it unique at the graduate school level. Every time.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's important because what we're trying to do, to me, I want to make sure these kids can get jobs when they get out. And last year I had one of my former students contact me. He hated AI, couldn't stand it. And his boss said, I want you to use AI and I want you to try to come up with something original. And I said, I trained you to do this. Talk to the AI, type with it. He came back after he did the problem and he said, I hate this. And I said, welcome to the adult world. And he did problem, and his boss found he was one of the only ones that they could actually use his idea to help the company right away. And within a week, he's training his peers on doing artificial intelligence. because he just sat down with it and just talked with it, typed with it until he got it to do what he needs to do. Because I trained him so well in the craft of research, and then he practiced it in college for 4 years. And those students are going to be able to keep their jobs and be a lot more productive, make a lot more money. You don't have to learn how to prompt engineer each time they come out with a new model. This shows you how to prompt engineer your brain.
To follow up on that, do you believe that there is maybe a threshold where depending too much on AI can be a issue in the future versus someone who can kind of use the more natural way of developing their ideas and articulating what their thoughts are versus depending on prompt and betting on whatever it responds with as truth?
Well, the thing that you have to understand about AI is it's only good. And just, my background, when ChatGPT, OpenAI came out with their $200 Pro version last December, I bought it that day. Okay. Here's what I tell students. Until you can write legitimately at the high school level, don't use it. Okay. And then if you want to use it, the only ethical way, and this is everybody I've talked to in education, you pretty much accept this, the teacher, you make sure they understand the process and you ask, can I use AI in any portion of this? And if they give you permission, it's ethical. If they don't, it's not. And it's teacher dependent. I've had teachers that would say, you know how to do, you know how to write. Yeah, go ahead and go crazy with it. Other ones say, I don't care. I don't want you using it. And you have to follow that rules if you want to do it ethically. But when you're out in the real world, after your education is over with, I use it constantly. And I'm constantly telling it, instead of me going to a human writer, every time I want to get something communicated, I go to the AI, and I honestly, I use the Pro version. I use 5 Pro because I get it's 10 minutes to do anything. And I tell it, I don't like this, change this. And then it goes ahead and does it. Okay. But it's kind of like scientists using a graphical calculator. Engineers don't do basic math anymore. They have graphical calculators. It was when I was an engineering student. Just because you're at the point now where you need to have technology take care of things. But as my calculus-based physics professor said, oh, you want to bring in your textbook? Go ahead. You want to bring in your notes? Go ahead. Bring graphical calculator? Fine. You want 8 hours for a 3-hour test? No problem. It's not going to affect anything. If you can't apply what you've learned, this stuff isn't going to help. Where if it's a history test and you have all that and you don't get an A, there's something wrong with you. Okay. Yeah. But with engineering, if you can't apply it, forget it. And that's the kind of the way that I look at with writing.
I love that you said that because I have the Pro version of ChatGPT 2 is really great working as an assistant, helping you organize. Right. And I love the fact that it can study your profile, your personal profile section, and it can really communicate as if it knows some of the personal details about you as well. And I think that ties in what we're saying, because for a parent who may be listening to this or watching this, what have you been able to deal with when a child shuts down? Because like I mentioned earlier, I can imagine if this is not something that's fixed early on, the gap of being able to catch up, I can imagine gets even more difficult. What have you noticed when a child shuts down, when they feel like they lost their confidence? What are some things that can spark them to get back in the game, so to speak?
Well, let me give you an example. I was working with one of my students, my most successful students at this age. Her name was Casey, and she shut down. She was 10 years old at the end of 5th grade. And then she turned 11 over the summer. I never saw this before. I will never see this again. Okay. But this is the most extreme end of what I do. She was just shattered. All right. And when I talked to her, I said, what are you really interested in? And she said, Theodore Roosevelt. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign you this little book. The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. This is 10th grade material to 1st grade college level, depending on who you ask. All right. Now, she's 10 years old with a 2nd grade reading level, and I give her a 10th grade level book. Why? Because she really wanted to know about Theodore Roosevelt. I asked her those questions, asked her a few more questions. She's like, yeah, that's me. How did you know? I said, I went through what you went through. But my writing and reading were worse when I went to college, when I was in college, when I graduated from college, than you are now. No, can't be. So I sent her my neuropsych report done by a State University of New York distinguished professor in psychology. She's like, this is horrible. I said, yeah. Do you want me to show you how to do it? She wanted to do reading first that I almost never do, because I have the idea if you can write it, you can read it. So I gave her a customized process. She's up in her room 3 hours a night, most of the days during the summer. All right, I'm working with her 15 minutes a week. We're now into the fall semester, and she's sitting in silent reading. The people are, they're reading Harry Potter, Twilight, or whatever, and they come over and they take her book. And they're flipping through it, and none of the kids could get past the first paragraph. Her teacher calls her mom. I thought your daughter had severe dyslexia. She's the best reader in the class in the grade by grade levels. What's going on? Her mom called me. What's going on? I said, what do you think she's been doing in her room all this time? I gave her a very simple process. You could take this book, flip it to any page, point to any word, and she would tell you the dictionary definition. Literally.
Wow.
All right. That's how powerful this is. When you get these kids in their speciality, they are focused like a laser.
Yeah.
All right. And that's just an extreme example. Most of the time, it doesn't take 6 months. Book like that at least takes a year, generally about 2. But that was 8 grade levels.
I can only imagine too that her interest level skyrocketed as well. She was reading something that she was interested in, and with that definitely helped her to be motivated, to be disciplined, to read. Because I'll raise my hand first in front of everybody. I'm a visual learner. I always have been. I always kind of thought outside the lines, and I was in the creative arts. So books and me, not until I hit college. But when you understand the consequence of that is that you really got to muscle your way through. But the benefit, like in the airplane, is that when someone in her case picks up something that piques her interest, that does a lot of great magic, if you will. And what I mean by that is she's able to stay disciplined and motivated doing something that's actually going to help her future. And if you don't do that while you have time, I think that you're going to have to muscle your way through a lot of things that's truly unnecessary if you were more disciplined doing what you had to do. I mean, you go to gym and you work out and exercise, stay fit. Well, you got to exercise your brain as well. And they say reading is fundamental. So I love that story about her. And I will inspire a lot of people that it's not too late, but you got to be disciplined. You got to do it. You can't just wish your way through.
Yeah. Casey was ready for college at the end of 8th grade. Last I heard from her, she was doing extraordinarily well in college. She's from the Midwest, and she said she's applying for her first big girl job. But when I mean she was ready for college, she was ready to walk into any college before she started high school. All right. I mean, I just advanced her that fast. But, typically what I'm just saying is this is not rocket science. It's focusing on how the dyslexic brain is actually designed to work until we get the student to grade level, and then you can put them back in and they will be fine. And the problem that I took 20 years to solve was, how do I make this simple enough for parents to do it?
Yeah.
Because we always had that issue. There's so many parents out there who just couldn't afford not a lot. And by far the most successful kids that I work with, by far, are lower middle class. My second best economic family background for success is upper middle class. But the lower middle class kids just work like crazy because they know they don't have a trust fund sitting at the end, and they want to succeed. And the parents do a great job of instilling a work ethic. But what I found, especially like with Casey, when we're just talking about general, the kid was shattered. But once you get in that speciality, I mean, just look what the kid accomplished. I can't get college kids, grad students to give me that sort of effort.
Yeah.
All right. And that's why I said, I never saw it before. I'll never see it again. But can I get kids to do that within a year or two, to go from 2nd grade to 10th grade? Yeah, I've done it, hundreds of times. It's just a matter of, understanding what's realistically to expect from these kids. And that first process I told you about, the first thing we do with the elementary school kids, a lot of the kids are writing randomly placed misspelled words. I can show parents in a matter of 10 minutes on an overview, and in 4,500 words just in writing out, that's it. I had to take their kid from kindergarten to end of 2nd, beginning 3rd grade level writing and reading. It's not that hard to do.
Yeah, you gotta be into it, because, like I said, me personally, understanding that, growing up, I hated books, but that really catches up with you if you're not careful. So you have to make it happen, whether you think it's going to be something you need or not. No, you need it. I have a lot of books now that I'm, aging, but those are really great stepping stones for you. Like, you really start to discover more about what you really can do and what you can grow into becoming. But you never know if you don't take it seriously. So I want to emphasize, when you're disciplined enough to read and push yourself, force yourself, then you're going to be able to do a lot of things later in life. But don't wait, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. But it's not impossible. It just means you really got to be more dedicated. But why wait, though? That's my message. Don't wait.
Right, but
start now.
But with my process, the older you are, the quicker you will pick it up. It's the exact opposite of Gordon Gillingham. It is far easier for me to teach this to a high school kid than a 5th grader, which is so much easier than a 2nd grader. Because I'm literally, because your brain is more evolved, it's more developed, and I'm hitting you right where your ability is. And just, how powerful the dyslexic brain is in grad school, I had to go and get my ideas supported by Professor James Collins. He had a $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Education Department in this area. People told me it was going to take years. Guess how long it took me from talking to him to getting his written approval?
6 months.
Less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Then I got 15 grand from the university, which allowed me to get the funding from the New York State Center for a multi-year study. Okay, I just didn't have more time. I literally had, that was all the time I had, and he put A+ excellent. All right. And we just put it right in the field. So there is a huge advantage to being dyslexic. You just have to get to grad school for it to really show itself.
That's awesome. I mean, I love this show. A lot of times we can have a little bit of entertainment here and there, and you know what I'm talking about. This episode is going to be very important. I hope a lot of people will share it with friends and family, because I think the work you're doing is something that we should celebrate more than some of the entertainment stuff that we try to focus on, and that's fine, but conversation like this is important, and I wish they had stuff like this. You know, I feel like that's kind of what we say when we get older. Man, I wish they had this kind of stuff back in the day. But
just how old are you now?
36.
Yeah, we had this back in the day. Original kids I've worked with, they passed their 20th high school reunion now. So this was there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here though, because that's good what you're doing. It's basically what I'm saying. It's a good resource to have, because with all the technology we have now and people like yourself doing the work you're doing, it takes more energy to try not to do something versus to just do something to better yourself. So I applaud what you're doing and working with students, especially those who maybe at some point lost their confidence, because I believe if you don't gain confidence, then you're not going to be willing to do what is necessary to do the work to get better. So with that said, you listen to Refocused Radio talking to our guest today, Russell. If someone wants to learn more about resources you have, what's the best website they can go to?
Best thing to do is just go to dyslexiaclasses.com, plural with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. And it says download free report, just a button right there on the homepage. Click on that, answer a few questions. You're going to get a document, the 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia and how to get past it. And then you can go ahead and set up a time to speak with me for, no cost or obligation for 30 minutes. I talk to your child, ask a few questions. And they come in really skeptical. And after I ask a few questions, we talk to them like, how do you know that about me? I said, well, I kind of went through what you went through. Is this how you want to overcome your reading and writing concerns? And the vast majority of the time, it's yes. And we work with parents on a yearly basis, and we show you how to work with them so we can actually get this done without people going bankrupt and having to spend house money, which I just find completely insane.
Well, like I always want to say to you, Russell, thank you for your time, man.
Thanks for having me.